As you can see, it's just me today. Dark Skin couldn't be in today, but you know what? He's still with us. I'm sure he's going to be watching. Everybody needs time to take time to do what they need to do. So, we respect that. Um, I really don't see a valid reason to not be considerate of that, considering what we represent and, what we talk about often. Uh, when it comes down to that as well, I just feel that this type of topic is absolutely necessary because of the fact that, we it's just something we don't really talk about. Like people don't talk about transparency. Or another version of it is being blunt, being straightforward, being, I guess, honest about yourself and about whatever you're feeling at the time. Uh I always find it interesting. I always find it interesting when it comes to transparency because there are a lot of people who will say that they are, transparent, that they're straightforward, that they're this and that. But it's something that isn't often clearly shown or clearly defined. And we won't get too deep into it until some people come in. I do want people to kind of have time to, form their opinions, say what they want to say, bring up their own concepts and everything. For those who are here, for anyone who is here, please go ahead and shout out. If you're on Facebook or YouTube or even Twitch, go ahead and drop a like because the algorithm loves that, and the algorithm doesn't currently love us. So we'd be very happy and very appreciative to have that. We do want to keep bringing this good stuff to you. Also, we have a Discord now. We officially have a Discord server. I'm actually going to drop that. Um, no, I was going to drop that link in the comments, but actually I want to know because I've asked, and I know I've asked before, who would want to actually be on the Discord? Because realistically, it's kind of to narrow down our fan base and really get to the nitty gritty of people who really want to talk about these issues in length. It would be an opportunity for us to all really sit down and discuss figuratively whatever things are brought up on the podcast. You could also have an opportunity to even contribute to the podcast as well, because you would be able to contribute ideas that would be reviewed and talked about and discussed amongst, a group of your own peers, also including me and Darks King. And then they can be brought up on the pod, and of course we'd shout you out, we let you get your shine for that. But realistically, who would really want to be on there? Because those of you that say that you do, hit me up and I'll hit you with the link. Those that do not answer, that's fine. That's okay. You just won't get the link. That's all right. Now the OGs are definitely gonna get the link just because y'all have been here. So I know y'all want this. You know what I mean? If it's something you don't choose to do or something that isn't your speed, that's totally fine too. But if it is, I think that would be a great opportunity for us to really communicate on a level that I know we normally don't. And I just think that's cool. I think that would be cool. Just just if not just because of the fact that more engagement does mean that we get more of an idea of what you guys like, what you guys want, and how you feel about a lot of subjects and different aspects of philosophy and whatnot. And we're all for that. We're all for that. Uh on this channel, we're definitely about tackling different issues, concerns, and problems and whatever. These are things that we want to approach. These are things that we want to talk about. We want to talk about what y'all want to talk about. Hopefully, from as authentic a perspective as we can. Because, yes, naturally, there are certain things that we cannot discuss in a way that people may be comfortable with just because we may not fit the demographic of what it represents. So in those cases, yes, you would have to bear with us, and we would probably try to actually get more people involved, like other people from the outside involved, to really speak on their perspectives concerning things that are akin to them. So that's definitely one thing that we want to speak on, and it's one of those things that goes back again to the concept of transparency. You know, it goes back to the idea that you not only have to be transparent with others, but you have to be transparent with yourself first. And if you're unable to do that, you are going to cause yourself a lot of problems. You're going to cause yourself a lot of problems because what people don't realize is the opposite of transparency means that you are basically, you know, you're just lying to yourself. And that's not something that we want. It's not something that we want. It's not something that we want for you guys. That's not something that we want for ourselves. It's definitely something that should be addressed, can be addressed, and I think can be properly talked about. Um, but we'll wait a little bit. We'll wait a little bit to get some people on here so we can have a proper discussion. Again, if you pop up on here, please drop a like at the very least if you can, and if you have time. If you have more time than that and you really do want to give a discussion, or at the very least say hi, go ahead and do that too. Because of course we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you, and we're trying to do what we can to make certain that we have the best opportunities to just hear from you. I think that's definitely something that is absolutely important. Well, give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to put a little music down. Might work on something today. Y'all know me. I have a bad tendency to just cook up stuff in the process of talking about different issues and everything. We might turn this into a series. Who knows? I don't know. I've had a bunch of ideas kind of swimming in my brain about how to really approach these things and how to really kind of step forward and make a lot of what we've been working on really pop and just really go off. You know what I'm saying? Uh, let me see. Just making a couple of posts. That way people can see the live. Give me a second. I don't know. We might try something fun. I'm just gonna pick a random sample and we're just gonna kind of go from there. We'll see what we can do with it. That sound cool? Figure it sounds cool. Let me see. I've got so many different samples that I don't even toy with that much. Um, like I said, once we get to about 8:15, I figured that'll be long enough for us to get a crowd together and we can really start talking about this subject. Let's see what's up. Let's see. What's this? No, I know that one. Hmm. That one has potential. All right, we can go with that. Um, let's see. Let's see. Probably has some extra junk on there, but I don't know if I want all that. Yeah, I'd rather just make that on my own. Yeah, we'll go with that. Like I said, you guys get to hang out with me today, so normally I have Sid around to kind of, aka Darks King, to kind of help out with the technical stuff. But we're still gonna have fun. We're definitely still gonna have fun. I'm about to drop a question for you guys. Give me a second. All right. So again, for those just popping on, tonight's topic is transparency. The question is, has your level of transparency or bluntness ever led to you offending someone? If so, why do you think that is? I think that's definitely something that's very important. Because honestly, when it comes to being transparent or honest or really bluntly honest, there are a lot of situations where you can potentially just hurt somebody's feelings. It it can cause a lot of problems for you. I mean, there's no secret to that. There's no illusions that can be made about that. And I think to some degree, because me and Dark Skin were talking about this a while back, actually earlier today when I saw him. Um, I think that there are situations and scenarios where people genuinely either do not believe in the capability of someone to be transparent, or they do not, because they just don't deal with it often, and because it's not something that commonly happens, they just don't know how to deal with it. So as a result, they find themselves, when faced with someone who is open, honest, straightforward, and exceedingly blunt, which makes up a good amount of my friends, I will say that, they don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to handle it. And it's interesting to see that. It's interesting to see that as a concept and see that reflected on someone's face, that they really don't know how to handle you at your most blunt and honest. And I think it's one of those things where, you got to be careful what you ask for. Um, what's up, Kiki Nikoru? It's good to see you. It's good to see you. Hopefully you can still see the question on the front. If you don't mind, if you would do the honors and answer it for the one time, since you are basically the first one that has commented, we want to go ahead and give you that honor. Because I know you are definitely amongst the number of friends that I have that is very blunt and very straightforward about a lot of things. And we've all talked and conversated about how that can sometimes lead to issues. It can lead to things being misconstrued, misunderstood, and it just makes things problematic at times. So if you feel the need, if you feel the tug, sister, feel free to express. Anyone else too, if they pop up on here too. Don't feel like you have to be left out. It's definitely something that I want us all to discuss. Give me a second. They all sound a little same. Mm-mm. Yeah. Sometimes I like to toy around with the more uncommon sounds. Hold on. Kiki Nikoru says, "Oh, random channel surfing. Good to see you, Valiant Thor. What's up? What's up? What's up? If you got some time, we appreciate you being on here with the Black in a Minute podcast. If you have some time to answer the question, please do. If not, we still appreciate you being here. If you enjoy some of the stuff we're doing, man, or lady, I don't know. Thor is usually male, but hey, we got a female Thor now, Jane Foster. But feel free to drop a like and let us know what your thoughts are. While you're doing that, Kiki Nikoru says, to the question up there, yes, but more so in my younger days. As I've grown, I've realized that some battles aren't worth saying, or I try to say it more nicely depending on the person. Yeah. And I like how you said that, because sometimes a lot of us can have an issue with what I call sugarcoating, or, trying to give the universally acceptable answer to things, right? Because people are genuinely and generally uncomfortable with actual bluntness, with actual transparency. Because, I mean, let's be real, the world is not always a nice place. Situations involving our activities within the world also imply that this ain't always sweet. Things are not always sweet here. So there are situations where you are going to have to deal with some harsh truths, have to deal with some things that you have to face and just own up to. And people are not always comfortable with that. That's just being real. People are not always comfortable with that. And so as a result, when you end up in situations like that, it can make it hard, just because, I mean, realistically, no one really likes bluntness. People typically have something of an issue. Okay, the question isn't discernible. I'm sorry. The question is, has your level of transparency or bluntness ever led you to offending someone? If so, why do you think that is? 9 times out of 10, for sure, it wasn't my intention to offend them. Right. And that's one thing that I do want to emphasize. Most people that are blunt usually do not intend to offend whoever the opposing party is, or the person who is basically being the receptacle of whatever piece of information or knowledge or advice or whatever you're giving. Most of the time, you're just trying to be straight up with them and just tell them what's up, And if you notice, a lot of times transparency comes out more and is typically criticized more in discussions that involve asking for advice, and there are plenty of people that I know who would just say, well, if you feel that way, then why'd you ask for the advice? But we have to remember that 9 times out of 10, when people are quote unquote asking for advice, they're really just looking for a listening ear. They don't really want you to talk back. They don't really want you to give real advice. Most of the time, they just want you to be a receptacle for their frustrations. And by that, I mean, they want you to listen. And they also want you to reciprocate and kind of bounce that back and more or less say, yeah, man, I feel you. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because half the time when people are asking for that type of advice to where they can potentially get offended, they're asking more for validation of a decision that they've already either made or that they've already determined is the right course of action. So in those cases, yeah, you do have to be kind of careful, because yes, while you do want to give good advice, it's kind of a rule of thumb. You don't give people something they don't want, you know and it sounds like I'm saying to intentionally sugarcoat, but realistically, if it seems like they're going to be aversive, they're going to be averse to the actual advice or the actual opinion you really have of the situation. Like Kiki Nakoto said, sometimes it's okay to just leave it be. you know every battle ain't worth fighting, and it certainly isn't always worth winning. Like, most of the time you're not going to win, and the sad truth is that a lot of people are not used to and do not readily deal with people who are blunt. I mean, that's just the truth. There's not really any way around it. And I mean, sometimes I do wonder how that works when it comes to that, because in my life, I've had situations where I've been on either one side or the other in this scenario. I've either been the one receiving the advice, or been the one who was giving the advice. And Valiant Thor says free thought, in quotations, is currently under attack in the United States. And Kiki Nikodu says, you knew how I would feel in regards to that topic, and that if you aren't ready to hear my outlook, don't ask. Right. Or in those situations, for those who are the listener, who are wanting to be heard and wanting to be listened to, because of course you want to be heard. That's okay. That's fine. Be intentional about what it is you want. If you want advice, say that. If you just want somebody to listen and hear you out and hear out your opinions, say that. Don't put people in a situation to where they're giving you something you don't want. Valiant Thor said there is no difference between free speech and thought. I would say that in some ways they go hand in hand. I won't say they're necessarily the same, but they go hand in hand in that a free thought produces free speech. You still have to choose whether or not to express that thought. And that's the only reason I say that it's not explicitly the same, because any number of things can change between the point of that becoming a thought and that turning into a speech, an expressed concept. Because sometimes we unintentionally censor ourselves. We don't know that we're doing it. We're not always cognizant of the fact that we're doing it. It's just something we automatically do. Sometimes I find myself doing that at work just because of understanding what sort of standard or what sort of, expectations are on me concerning certain things, right? So with that being said, sometimes it is hard to just be straight up with somebody, because sometimes bluntness, while it might be needed in certain cases and certainly warranted, you have to pick and choose your situations. Yeah, those aren't exclusive. Okay. You have to pick and choose your situations, because sometimes your right idea isn't always the right idea for that moment. It isn't always in agreement or intertwining well with professionalism, and you have to be very careful with that. Valiant Thor said that free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of the basis of logic, reason, and empiricism. Ooh, you used empiricism. Hey, that's one of man. I haven't heard the word empiricism in a long time. It tells you how long I've been out of college, but yes, and that is very true. That is very true. I can agree with that. Those are all very valid points. Positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, and empiricism. In other words, it's evidence-based practice. It's speech based on evidence. It's speech based on something that is actually tangible. And I think the free part is the concept of being willing to think it and being willing to want to express it and having the desire to express it, because there's lots of things that we may consider to be, like the undisputed truth, but there are not a lot of truths that we're, readily willing to say, speak on, and express. And I think we can all agree with that. you know it depends on the situation. you know and I think that in a lot of cases, as I've said before, and I'll just continue to say it because it's very honest, a lot of people are not good at dealing with transparency. They're not trained to listen to it. They're not wired to deal with someone who carries a blunt approach. Unless they were raised up in a home with individuals or a person who had that, they don't always know how to react to it. And that's just the truth. Um, it's definitely something that makes you question a lot, makes you think about a lot. Definitely makes you reflect. Like, it personally makes me reflect to how I was as a child. Some of the things that maybe I wanted and also didn't want to hear, and didn't want to accept just because it would get in the way of what I had going on or what my thoughts was or what my beliefs were. And as I've gotten older, I've come to realize that taking those kind of L's are not to your detriment if you learn from it. You know what I'm saying? If you learn from an encounter that puts you in a disadvantageous position, depending on your argument, because their argument proves to be superior or proves to be more accurate and congruent to whatever situation you got going on, you know, you have no reason to feel bad about that. It's most certainly something that can be applied to your life in a different way if you change the perception that you have of it. Which I think we talked about perception and perspective last week. So that's definitely something you should look into if you're on the site and you're just chilling and you got about an hour to kill. Valiant Thor says tolerance has reached such a level that some intelligent people are banned from thinking as to not offend imbeciles. Have a blessed night. Hey, you too as well. Thank you for bringing forth your opinions. We do appreciate it. We hope to see you again. We usually do this. Usually, my buddy, the Dark Skinned Poet, is here as well, and we usually kind of tag team this. But we always are here every Sunday at 8. If something else happens, you usually can be notified. Before you go, allow me to drop the Flowco link so that way you can actually get tapped in with us with the podcast as a whole. Because we also do an audio podcast and we have merch, various other things that you could definitely enjoy and appreciate. That right there is actually the link if you want to see it. Please feel free to tap in and even bring forth some topics and questions that maybe you want answered and you want discussed. We're definitely open to whatever. But you have a blessed night, and hopefully you have a good day tomorrow. Hopefully it's not too hot if you're living in the Evansville area. If you're not, well, hopefully it's not too hot anyway, because it's gonna be the first day of August. Look, I don't know how this gonna look. So good luck. Um, but yeah, most definitely. I am glad that, we're able to talk about this a little candidly. I know there's not a whole lot of people on stream, but it's definitely something that I think is important to speak on. So if you have an opinion, please do bring it. Please do bring it. I think there's a lot of situations where, people can truly learn from their situations. I think there's a lot of points that life gives us and places us in where we can really learn, where we can truly become greater, better, smarter, you know, and actually get to a point where we're able to talk about the things that matter. We're able to discuss things that maybe may affect us negatively or may paint us in a negative light. And I know those things are hard to deal with. I know those things are hard to accept because people don't like to accept negatives, even in the face of those negatives being surrounded by positives. You tell somebody one negative, and all of a sudden they're just not in it. They're just not into it. And I've noticed this myself. It's certainly something that the average person has difficulty handling. Um and I think that part of that has to do with the fact that we're we're just not blunt. A lot of people have just been taught to not be blunt and be explicitly opinionated with what they do. You know, there's a lot of situations where, the train of thought ends up becoming the same because it gets sterilized, gets filtered. Um, Kiki Nikoda says, discuss things while seeing each other's viewpoints, even if we both don't agree on it. Yes. And I think that the biggest thing about that is the establishment of ground rules when it comes to discussions, when it comes to conversations, when it comes to people speaking their minds, because sometimes you end up in situations where, folks don't want to follow the rules. Folks want to be angry and want to, speak their speech and be expressive, but they don't want to be considerate of the other person. And sometimes their thoughts and their feelings and what are supposed to be just pure expressions end up becoming attacks. And as people who are blunt, if you are one of those people, you have to be very careful that your expressions do not become attacks. And I'm not saying that as if, I'm so much better and that I've never done it. I'm saying it because it is very, very easy to do. It is very easy to just, you know, it's easy to drop the ball and be offensive. It's easy to drop the ball and say something that's going to throw somebody for a loop and probably mess up their whole entire day, even when you're trying or you're intentionally trying to, be helpful. You're trying to do something to improve somebody's life and not necessarily make it difficult, right? So, with that being said, you don't want to make things hard for that person. You just want them to understand the concept. And in those cases, you do have to weigh the scales and determine what's worth more. You know, um, these are situations where you tend to fight a lot with your pride. You tend to battle a lot with your inner feelings because maybe your inner feelings are saying something that you are, I was going to say scared, but you're not really scared to say it. You're just worried about how it's going to be accepted. You're worried about how you're going to be accepted whenever you speak your mind about certain things. And it's a valid thing to consider, to be sure. Because we live in the real world. We live in the real world. Criticisms are real. Life is real. You're going to have somebody who tells you that they don't agree with what you're doing. They don't agree with your approach. They might agree with what you're trying to do and what your intent is, but they may not agree with your approach. And as a result of that, now you have a point of contention because you have someone who, is sitting, right next to you that literally doesn't agree with anything you say or believe. And that can be a problematic situation to be in. But some of these things are never addressed. Some of these things are never brought up because, yeah. Kiki Nakoda says, not gonna lie, some people I have encountered sugarcoating my point wasn't getting across. Oh, to some people I've encountered, sugarcoating my point wasn't getting across. They needed that raw reality check. Right. And there are some times where sugarcoating just don't do it. It just doesn't cut it. It doesn't work. There's nothing you can do. It's just gonna have to. It's just you just got to pull it from the hip. You just got to let them know. You know what I mean? You're just going to have to kick them in the face with something that they may not be comfortable with. I mean, and you have those situations in life. Sometimes it's because the matter at hand is far too big to be left as something of a trivial matter. You know what I'm saying? You can't just, like, if it concerns somebody's kids or their families, you can't just, be like, oh yeah, everything's cool, everything's gonna be fine, you don't have to worry about nothing, because not only is that not accurate in this situation, it might be detrimental to that person. It might be detrimental to their life experience at this moment if they're just told to just stand by and wait for something else to happen or wait for something to work out, right? They might need that call to action. They might need that bluntness, kind of spurring things on and getting them through that difficult stage of life, because again, we're not always going to be here. And I'm not even saying like just, necessarily dying, but like we're not always going to be around to, explain things or sugarcoat things. Sometimes life just hits you with something and you ain't ready for it. You ain't ready for it. So you try to find the nearest place of mental refuge where you can deflect away from the subject, where you can deflect away from the issue at hand, because you don't want to talk about it. You just don't want to express it. And you're afraid that your expression either is going to cause a level of scrutiny or a level of disrespect, or you're afraid that your expression is going to be met with opposition. And in these cases, both could very well happen. I know a lot of people like to say that there is a war on free speech, and to some degree I can kind of level with that. I can agree with why people say that, because it truly is, I won't say it's a war per se, but there definitely is a lot of things at work to kind of restrict free speech, to kind of restrict, the idea of people being straight up and blunt about things, or more specifically, the allowance of people to have nuanced feelings about things. That's the hard part. That's the hard part, is that you do have situations where people are just not being allowed to express themselves just because of whatever reason. One thing that is true, even though you have to be very careful with how you utilize it, is that if you have an opinion, if you have a thought, or you have a belief, you are entitled to your opinion. Now, with that being said, because I can hear the hoteps tingling in the background, just because you're entitled to your opinion does not mean that you are entitled to express your opinion. And it does not mean that you have to it doesn't mean that you're entitled and required to express your opinion at that very moment. Because sometimes there are times where even if you have all the answers in the world, you need to just sit down, shut up, and just let them sort whatever out. Let things work themselves out. Because in so many cases, they do. Sometimes things just work out. Sometimes they don't, but that's okay. The biggest thing is just being okay with yourself. Being straightforward about what it is you want, what it is you need, and going for it. Sorry, I'm trying not to get too far off subject. Let me go grab a water real quick. Trying to get myself right. Trying to use some more abstract drums just for the heck of it. It's just a fun thing to do. Hold on. Let's see if I can get this kick going. Let's see. Yeah. All right, let me see. Let's see. Let's see. Go ahead and fix this real quick. Okay. Sorry if this is a bit monotonous. We're going to fix it here in a second. There it goes. Not me. Yeah. Sometimes I do it whenever I have free time and, I'm just hanging out with y'all. So, we're vibing today. So may as well just cook up something. Right? There it goes. There it goes. Mm-hmm. But, it's true. Just a vibing kind of night. You think you fit into the blunt grouping? Yeah, honestly. My grandmother always used to tell me that I had a go to hell attitude back in high school. I try not to fit into the blunt grouping, but I know there's been moments where I have said things that are just exceedingly blunt. Like even when dealing with clients and dealing with like people that, I kind of have to be to some degree blunt with, but very careful about what I say. Sometimes that makes that kind of hard because you kind of have to know what level of force you need to use. You have to be very smart about how much or how little you say. Because, you don't want to cut somebody's head off. You just want them to get the concept that whatever they're doing may be problematic or, there might be a better way to look at it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to end up with putting somebody in a better position. You want them to be in a better, maybe not a better mood, but at least in a better position than they left you with. So you definitely don't want to risk, just tearing somebody apart just because you felt like you had to speak your speech. You know what I'm saying? And look, in Umar's words, speak your speech. You know what I mean? Man, I wish we had the little laugh track thing. Might have used that as a little reference one day. But realistically, sometimes you do have situations that cause problems. Sometimes you do have situations where, well, you don't really got a choice but to be blunt. Because if you're not, well, the end result may not go so well. You really might end up with a situation that will cause more harm than good. And you have to be very careful with that. Hold on. We're almost there. I might use a different 808 though. see. It went before I could finish. LOL. That's odd. I don't think I fit into the blunt category, even though you have moments. Oh, I don't think you fit. Even though you have moments, more so you either choose not to or bother to say it as nice as possible. I'm like, so you. I mean, it's one of those things that I try, and I think just by virtue of working, you get into work brain where there's times where I do actually find it difficult to be blunt, if that makes sense. Like, it's literal moments where I just be like, I'm finding it hard to actually say what I need to say in this situation. And it's kind of weird, actually. It's kind of weird because you're like, well, how is it hard for me to say what needs to be said if I know exactly what I need to say? And sometimes you know what you want to say. And I guess it's just that level of discernment of being like, okay, maybe not right now, right? Maybe not right now. Sorry. Nose has been really itchy today. I don't know what's going on. Look, we ain't speaking no sicknesses out here, though. But realistically, there have been times where I've had to learn to balance my bluntness, if that makes sense. Like, I've had to be very intentional about what I say. Because if you're not, you run the risk of being put in a situation where, you might have somebody who thinks you're trying to be friends with them or friendly or whatever, and then all of a sudden you flip on them because you have to explain something that maybe they're not comfortable with. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, if you do, so be it. It kind of is what it is. But honestly, you have to be very careful about how you bring yourself forward to other people because you might end up in that situation. They might think that you're trying to be a friend, you and the thing about it is that you can be a friend to somebody and not agree with what they say. And I think that's a concept that is lost on us nowadays, is that people really think that you can't be friends with somebody if you don't fully share their views or their opinions or thoughts. That's not true. You can definitely agree to disagree, and that's totally okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with one, being straight up with people, two, just being, very very intentional about what you say and very intentional about what you do, and making sure that whatever critiques you render, because usually, transparency comes with critiques more often than not. Say what you got to say in love, man. Like, say what you got to say respectably and respectfully. Now, before we really end off, I feel like we've only talked about one side of transparency. Another side of transparency is where people are willing to explain and speak on their own shortcomings, their own problems. You know what I'm saying? And that one is tricky. It's tricky. It's a very tricky thing to do because in so many cases, man, you're pretty much just holding yourself, you're taking yourself to task. And that's not an easy feat. It's not easy being honest with yourself, and it's not easy being straight up about something. There, see. I said that wrong. Let's see. Hold on. That means that we need to. So I did have it right. It was just pitch bent wrong. Let me see. Sometimes you have to put them in the higher parts just to hear it. There it goes. There it goes. But yeah, honestly, it's okay to be expressive about yourself, though. It's okay to be straight up about whatever problems you have, whatever issues you have, whatever shortcomings you may have, because in so many ways, that level of honesty is not only going to be appreciated by those around you, it's going to be appreciated by yourself, because now you have something to attack. Now you have an issue to address. Now you have something that you can actually functionally deal with, right? Like for me, to some degree, my bluntness was a problem. It's something that I've worked really hard on. So I think now sometimes it just switches on and off, right? Another thing, like for me personally, and maybe this is another question I could ask, to the very few who are here. What's something you feel like you can be transparent about? What's an issue or deficiency you can be transparent about? Let me see. Let me put this down. Question 2. So here's the next question. What is a flaw or deficiency that you can be transparent about? I can definitely say for mine is something I'm not very good at asking for help. I've never been good at asking for help. I've never been good at trying to, elicit assistance or help from others. Even when I'm able to get help from others, it's something that I, kind of cringe to do. Sorry, I bumped the mic. It's something that I very rarely allow to be in my toolbox of things. And just the admission of needing help is very hard for me. There are a lot of situations where I'll take on issues and problems myself, and I won't give myself the opportunity to truly, consider alternatives that don't just involve me figuring it out. Because sometimes there might be more to it that maybe I'm not seeing, but someone else can see. And if I don't have that someone else around, and if I'm not addressing them as a resource, and I'm not trying to, figure out where they're coming from and figure out how they can help me, nothing gets done. So I'm sitting there kind of resting on my laurels, frustrated, trying to logic out something that I probably could have figured out if I just had somebody to bounce an opinion off of. So I can definitely say that's one that's kind of stuck with me for a long time. Um, Work and life again have kind of made it easier to approach certain things like that because it became a necessity for me to learn from other people. You know, it's a little easier to try to lean on your own understanding when you're a kid. It's a little harder when you're an adult because, especially if you're starting a job, somebody's got to teach you. Kiki said, I can be transparent about dang near everything. Oh, don't I know it? But what's something, well, pick something good that you feel like you could express. Like, cause I mean, yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff too. So I kind of just shot out the not being able to be willing to accept help thing because I know that's something that I have a thing about. I know that's like one of my big things, right? So what's a big thing? I ain't telling you to be self-deprecating. I'm just saying, just address something that, maybe you've been working on and you're just not quite there yet, It's okay. This is a safe space. While you're thinking about that, did want to bring up, which you already know about this, Kiki, but, we'll go ahead and just we'll go ahead and pop this up here real quick. Give me a second. There we go. Well, dang, I don't know. As an outsider looking in, what do you think? Because I don't try to hold punches, LOL. I think to some degree we might have the same issue with asking for help, needing help, or more so I think we're similar on the level of trying to just do it on our own or doing it our own way, And even in situations where it's not as realistic or effective or efficient to really do that, I think that both of us have had this issue, in different points in our lives where we still try to make it work, knowing full well that we don't know the first thing about how to do it, right? But we power through it anyway and, try to make it make sense, and sometimes end up going through way more stress and frustration and anger and just whatever that we didn't even have to if we had just looked for a second opinion. Now I can say that I feel like we both have done better with this, but I think that's something that we both have. Kiki Nikoto, okay, so you're saying my problem was learning to turn it off and learning when to and not to say certain things. Yes, that's a big one. That is a big one. And ironically now, I feel like my issue is opposite. I feel like now whenever I'm at work, it automatically turns off. So I just become nice. You know what I'm saying? And I have to kind of reactivate it in certain situations where I got to be firm with folks, right? And a lot of it is because I don't like to be blunt. Most of the time it's just something I'm good at. And like, I mean, I've legitimately almost made people cry a couple times. So I mean, like, it's not something I relish doing. But it's necessary sometimes because, sometimes you gotta let some folk know. You know what I'm saying? So I could definitely agree with that. Sometimes mine is learning to turn the switch, is figuring out how to turn the switch back on when I need it, because if you turn it on too early, you look like a nut and you seem like you're just being a dick to people. If you turn it on too late, then all of a sudden you're like going off and you're crazy and they don't know where it's coming from. So you have to find that little happy medium of like, okay, I think I can inject a little bit of realness and bluntness right now. And then I can back off, And I think the biggest thing about it is just saying your piece and then backing off. Because, sometimes when you get frustrated and you get tired of people's crap, you get to the point where you're like, you know what? No. You're going to catch this L and you're just gonna feel how I feel about this situation, and I'm not gonna let you off because you shouldn't have did it in the first place, and blah 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 blah, and you done lost the plot. You know, now you do just sound like a dick, right? Or you just say nothing. Where you should have said something, you just say nothing, and then you just sit there and be mad at whatever the situation is. So when you say stuff, it's just like giving punishments to kids. Once you done let the punishment off, whatever it is, you know, once that punishment is over, once that whatever is over, you ain't got to come back and be like, see, I shouldn't have had to do that to you because you're so fucking difficult. You're making everything hard. No. You don't have to do that. It's already been rendered. You said what you said. You already, you determined that you had time. You let whoever have it. It's done now. It's done now. You can turn it off. You don't have to say no more. You ain't got to say no less. You've said it, right? And again, with bluntness, I think it is starting and stopping. It is starting and stopping that is very hard because you don't realize how much more you want to say until after you said it. And in those type of delicate situations where maybe somebody's emotions are hanging by a thread and maybe they ain't mentally right now and maybe they can't handle a whole lot, you could go from making somebody's day easier or offering some much needed advice to literally eviscerating somebody to the point where they don't want to function no more. And Keegan Dakota says, I think I got a medium. But also, when someone asks for help and I explain my view and they low blow trying to get defensive, them gloves come off. Okay, yeah. And I ain't gonna lie, that's a hard one. That's a hard one. Because, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When that defensive comes up and, you know, they want to, and sometimes, yeah, they low blow or they try to come at your credibility or you or they're attacking. They're attacking, basically. And the only reason they're attacking is because they're mad. You know, they feel some type of way. So they're starting to raise their voice and they're trying to, you know, get up in your face, say whatever. And it's like, all right, look, man. You're right. It is kind of like, you know, take the glasses off, kind of look at them like, boy, like, you know you about to let him have it. And even with that, you have to practice discernment. You have to be very strategic and very smart about how you do it. Because there's a way, and old folks know this, like a lot of old black women know this. There is ways to completely eviscerate somebody without really being disrespectful, but getting your point across. You know what I'm saying? You ain't always just gotta let off on them. You just be like, all right, you just hit them with the truth, you know? And okay, so she said, at this point, I'm 100% still speaking facts, but it's definitely to offend, working on that. Yeah. That's definitely a big one. Because you have to remember, and I know I just backpedaled a little bit on what I said, but you gotta, it's such a fine line. It's such a fine line because you have to remember your intent is not to offend. Your intent is either to educate or to just be honest. You know, just be as honest as possible. You're not trying to hurt them. Now, if they get hurt as a result of what you said, so be it. It is what it is. Let the bodies hit the floor. But if that's not your intent, if that's not what you're trying to do, you know, always be intentional. That's not the word I wanted. Be intentional about what you're trying to do. Be mindful of what your goal is whenever you're expressing something. If you're not careful, you'll lose the plot for being angry, or you'll lose the plot for you being offended, or you being bothered because somebody has the nerve to say something wild back to you when you're just trying to help them out. Don't lose ground as a result of that. You can still say what you want to say. You still say what you got to say, but you just won't have to tolerate too much of that stuff if you learn to approach it the right way. Because once you're trying to aim to offend, then it becomes a competition. It stops becoming about any factual information, about any valid information that could really be helpful or beneficial to the person. Now you're just trying to rip them apart. You're just trying to attack. And it's like, that ain't necessary. If you want to attack, I mean, just haul off and punch them in the face if it's really like that. You know what I'm saying? Why are you still talking? But it's something that we do have to be very careful about. We have to be very careful with it. And it is easy. I know with a lot of our blunt-minded people, it is very easy to just be cold. That's sometimes my issue. I become very cold towards people. And I'll just say things in ways that I know cut deep. And I understand that, but at the same time, I'm low-key trying to cut deep because it's like, okay, I need you to understand this is serious. I need you to understand that, this is something that is worthy of being discussed, and it's certainly something that needs to be said. Otherwise, there may be an end result or a conclusion that isn't positive. Yeah, definitely feel like I have gotten better at walking away from the situation instead of responding to the first thought. Right. And dog, that's hard. I commend you for that. I do commend you for that, because there are some times where I struggle with that. Or I hold it in, and then as soon as I leave that room and I breathe, I'm like, I had to chill, like I have to hold my tongue because I know full well, like Tupac used to say, I know my mouth will get me in trouble. All right, I was like, and I know I have a way of saying things that just can absolutely cut people. It's definitely something I inherited from my grandmother. Much love to her. So it's very hard. I'm not gonna lie and say it's easy. But something that is easy, something that is very easy, is going onto our Flow page and also going onto the Black in a Minute shop and looking at some of our lovely products. Because in that case, all you need is an internet connection, an address, and some money. Look at this. Look at this. We have the QR code. Somebody can scan your stuff. We have mugs and thermoses. Look at that. That's sexy. That's sexy right there. And also my personal favorite, partially because I designed them, is the Control the Controllable shirts. The whole series, baby. Y'all gonna see me wearing one of these Johns. I was meaning to get one myself, and I just haven't. So y'all are gonna see me rocking the Control the Controllables. I might wear this John to work, just to give the kids something to think about. You know what I'm saying? But yes, it is definitely it's a lovely apparel set. So and we got stickers. Look at that, we got a sticker. Ain't that fresh? We got a little bag. It's got the logo on the back and a catchphrase in the front. You know what I'm saying? We out here. We are out here. Please do contribute. Don't let these beautiful designs just sit here. Make them a part of your life and bring them home with you. Hold on. Oh, that is odd. Wow, I was advertising my butt off and it didn't work. All right, now look at this lovely selection of things. I'm gonna Vanna White this thing real quick because I thought I was and it didn't happen. But yeah, look at all this. We got mugs. We got sweaters. Ain't gonna really matter to y'all right now. That's for winter. But we do got crop top hoodies. That's always nice. For the girls. Got the V-neck tee, the tank top, man. You got posters. Oh, and also, yes, the controllable set. Yes. Please do get some of these. And if you do, get some pictures. I want to see what y'all look like in some of this lovely apparel or with some of these lovely products. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to have y'all out here living good and looking good, Look, peep the backpack. I can't wait to see what the backpack looks like, for real. But yes, just lots and lots and lots of lovely things here at your disposal if you just have, as I said, the moolah, an internet connection, and an address to send it to in a little bit of time. That's not difficult at all. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you it's not. But anywho, trying not to wear off the welcome here. It was a little bit of a smaller stream, but you know what? I'm totally okay with that because this was kind of impromptu. We are going to try and do better in the future about topical things and you guys being notified about said topics, so that way you can formulate your thoughts and you can really say what you want to say. Don't think that the end of the stream means that you are not allowed to say what you say. Also, once again, we have a Discord. There is currently nothing on it. We want to change that. So if there are those of you guys on here that are on here and listening and paying attention and you want to be on that Discord, hit me up. I will send you the link so that way you can be added on, and maybe your topic, maybe your suggestion, and maybe your discussion can be put on to the main pod as a big discussion for everybody else. And you can sit in the back grinning, doing the Birdman hand rub, going like, yeah, I did that. That was me. I was drunk at 2 a.m. and I had thoughts and I felt like sharing them, and I shared them to the Discord and they checked it out and it was hard. They said it was hardcore and they went for it. They said that was the greatest stuff that was ever brought up ever. I'm the GOAT out here. We will shout you out. We will shout you out. We will give you your due flowers. So yeah, without further ado, this has been the Black in a Minute podcast, sponsored by the illustrious Twyman Art. If you are in the Evansville area, feel free to pop up and check out some of this lovely artwork. This is literally just the upstairs. All the really dope stuff is downstairs. There's also a big, huge window when you drive by that you can really see a lot. It's amazing. It's definitely amazing. You should definitely appreciate it. But anywho, I have been NeRo AnGeLo. I just want to wish you guys a wonderful night. Hopefully it's not too hot because I've seen that heat advisory. I hope that the weather stays good, or that, we just get a little bit of rain, but I know better because we live in southern Indiana and it does whatever it wants. And by that, I mean the weather. So with that being said, I bid you all adieu. Have a good night. Peace out. Power. Move down so you can see the fist.